Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Take Care and Live podcast. Really excited that you are spending time with me here on the show. I am your host, Dr. Stephen V. Peters, and my job is to help you live, lead, and thrive through the intersections of life. Listen, I promise you that I continue our series on Momentum Thieves, where we cover the mindset and behaviors that actually steal our ability to cultivate momentum and make the gains, the traction to achieve the goal and the outcome that we know we value and hold in high esteem to reach. But if we don't commit the time, the energy, the tangible resources, the emotions to it that's needed to help us invest in it, we won't get very far. So it's really important that we unpack what those momentum thieves are. And to help us do that, I want to start off with a little bit of a story. You know, in 2010, I made a bold decision to resign from a really good paying job, a tenure track position as a high school administrator. I did it just weeks before a new school year started. And I decided to take that leap to lead a new organization in Newark, New Jersey, a new high school in New Jersey. It was one of its kind, a multi campus high school made up of 4 different learning models. Being on multiple campuses, it required a kind of movement and flexibility and adaptability that typically people walking into a principalship don't have to navigate. And I took the position because I felt called to that community in Newark, New Jersey. I'd been passionate about the city for a number of years, even before getting the job. And I remember getting this call from somebody. He told me, he said, I sent you an email, check your email. And if you're interested, call me back. And it was this opportunity. And here I was just weeks before a brand new school year was going to start, actually going into my 5th year as a school administrator in New York City, which would have been a tenure year for me, or tenure making year. And I decided to let it go, to take on this new opportunity. And a number of people in my circle actually thought that was pretty risky. They thought it was a little crazy. I was leaving the known for the unknown. I was leaving security for the unpredictable. But it was a decision I needed to make. And it was a decision I had been praying for and that I wanted because I felt called to it. I can't tell you all the reason why I felt called to it, other than my passion to see young people grow within a community and a school context where they needed to be valued, where they needed to explore new opportunities that traditional high school experiences couldn't provide. That resonated with me. But I say all this to say and to point out another momentum thief that we tend to face, and that is waiting to get someone else's permission before we take action, waiting to get permission that we don't need. Momentum, as I reminded us before, is the determination to identify your most important goals and consistently dedicate the time, emotions, and tangible resources to them so that you can make progress in achieving them. And as a result of achieving them, you expand your capacity to help others achieve theirs. Remember, momentum is not just about you, it's about other people. And your success, your progress, your development, your forward motion impacts more than yourself. It impacts other people around you. It even impacts people you don't or will never know. And so sitting around and waiting for permission can be a dangerous thing. A lot of us actually come from permission-based cultures. Some of us grow up as rule followers, and one of those rules is always waiting to get the okay before you take action. That idea and that behavior is really, it's egocentric. In a lot of ways, it's based on what someone else thinks is good for you, as opposed to you being able to stand on your own 2 feet and identify what is good for you yourself. Certainly, you need to be able to open yourself up to critique and feedback where appropriate. But if you're always looking for the matriarch or patriarch of your family to be the one to give you the okay before you take action, or if you are always depending on those one or two close friends who you typically don't make a decision without them saying it's a good move, then you likely are going to find yourself in a stalled position when it comes to gaining traction in the things that you value. You don't need to wait for other people's permission because you already are validated. You already are valued. And if that has been a mindset that you have been stuck in, you have a deficit, a value deficit. If you have a validation deficit, then you will be beholden to other people's granting of permission before you take action. But I want to give you some confidence here because, in the grand scheme of things, you are already valuable and you're already important. And the person who's responsible for understanding that is you. Scripture tells us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. That's Psalms 139, 13 to 14. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. That distinction, or that designation, I should say, is not something that's meant for just a hand full of people, for an exceptional group of people. That is a description of each and every person that God has created. And because you are fearfully and wonderfully made, you are someone of value. That confirms you're already validated. And so be careful when you're tempted to wait and be at a standstill because you believe you need the validation of other people before you forge ahead in tackling and gaining momentum in what it is you value. Okay? Now, I what I love that illustrates this pushback against a permission-based culture is it resonates in scripture because there's an example of this in Moses. Moses encountered in scripture, he encounters a situation where he's leading the people of Israel. Now, Moses, in this call to lead the people of Israel, this is a community of people he is not paid to lead, but he sensed a call to lead there. And in this situation, he experiences a great deal of frustration because the people of Israel are no longer in captivity. They're no longer slaves to the people of Egypt. Very brutal physical and emotional and mental slavery experience. They're no longer there, but they're not yet in the new territory that's promised to them. So they're in between two worlds. Have you ever been between two worlds? You're not where you were, but you're not where you want to be, and you don't see how you're going to get to where you want to be. And that creates such a tremendous weight for you and a sense of anxiety and frustration, perfectly normal. But here's Moses's challenge. He didn't need the permission to lead the people of Israel because he was already affirmed and called by God to do it. He sensed the call, he took action and moved ahead. But here he is having to contend with the frustration of the people, and now himself is caused him to become frustrated, and now he is leaning back into a permission-based culture because the resistance or the feedback from the people that he's leading at this moment is now becoming a very of tremendous weight on his own cognition. I could imagine it's taking a toll on his body as well. You know how it is when people are frustrated. You're frustrated because you've had whether an argument with your spouse, or a disagreement with a colleague at work, or a disagreement with a sibling or a friend. How it doesn't only just take a toll on your mind, but it can actually take a toll on your body. Some people clamp up. Some people get exhausted. Some people become so discouraged that they lose the desire to do anything else. You could imagine Moses having this experience. And in that moment, he goes to God. I'm paraphrasing for you the experience. You can read about the whole experience yourself in Exodus 14. But he goes to God and brings this to his attention. Essentially, he says, God, look at these folks. They are discontent. They're frustrated. I don't know what to do. What you want me to do? And God simply tells him, I mean, you can't make it up. He says, why are you crying to me? Tell the Israelites to get moving. Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to get moving. In the midst of Moses seeking permission to take action, God himself pushes back on him and says, you already know what the responsibility is. Man, you go out there and lead. Don't complain to me. Don't sit around waiting for me to give you approval again. I've already given it to you. I've already called you to it. I've already told you what the assignment is. You go and you take the next step and you tell those folks to get moving. Now, you'll say, Stephen, wait a minute. Isn't there this whole thing in the Bible around getting counsel from people before you take action? I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you pointed that out. You're right. That is important, right? There is a such thing as getting the counsel before you make decisions. And I want to highlight a couple of passages for you that describe that. And then I want to clear up a misconception that could be bubbling for you. Proverbs 11:14 says, for lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors. So this idea of having multiple people at the table who can inform your decisions, particularly when you know you have to make a strategic one, is important. Proverbs 12:15, fools are headstrong and do what they like, but wise people take advice. There's wisdom in getting advice from others. Notice it's wise people take advice, not wise people go get permission. Two different things. When you get advice, you're accumulating information and knowledge to help you make the final and best decision. Proverbs 15:22, refuse good advice and watch your plans fail. Take good counsel and watch them succeed. Another prime example, that surrounding yourself with counsel helps your plan succeed because you are getting the insights from others that may have had the experience or may better know how to tackle or what to do in executing a plan more so than you do. None of that talks about waiting for permission. And then finally, I'm going to give you another one, Proverbs 19:20. Take good counsel and accept correction. That's the way wise people live. Again, doesn't point to permission or being validated. What it does point to is being open to receive feedback, even when you've made a decision, so that you can learn from the feedback you received as a result of that decision and leverage that to help you live even more wisely, be even more thoughtful, even more strategic in how you live and who you are in the world. So the reality is seeking wise counsel isn't the same as permission-based culture. What people tend to do, and what you have to be careful of, which is a momentum thief for you, is you can couch waiting for wise counsel under the guise, or you can couch waiting for counsel and use that as an excuse for not taking action, which in essence, what you're doing is adopting a permission based perspective in what you should do. You have a unique assignment, calling, you have a specific vision and outcome you want to achieve. If you sit around waiting for perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done. Remember the basis for this series, Ecclesiastes 4:11. If you worry about the weather and don't plant, you won't harvest the crop. What does that mean? If you wait around for perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done. But what does that tell us then about getting wise counsel and moving past a permission based culture? Well, it tells us that you are responsible for taking clear, actionable steps towards what it is you want to achieve. I needed to take very clear, actionable steps to lead a school in a new environment. It was risky. It was, others thought it wasn't the best idea. It was something I was clear I needed to do. The outcome of that experience, not just in the short term, but the longer term, helped to create opportunities for me to have exponential impact in ways that other people have waited years to experience. I think I've named that in a prior podcast, but that all came because I didn't live by a permission based culture. I didn't allow my momentum to be hampered by the need of getting someone else's approval. However, I will say that in the midst of that experience, I did seek advice. I did seek counsel. And there were a few people with whom I told them about the opportunity to get them to weigh in and to help me determine whether what I was thinking in terms of the decision I made was a good one, or was there some way I needed to self correct. In neither of those experiences was I counting on them to be the final answer or decision maker. So, momentum thief number 4, waiting for other people to grant you permission only underserves the value you could be adding right now by you taking very concrete, deliberate action and trusting that in taking that action, you will see opportunities develop. Yeah, sure, it'll be risky. Sure, it'll push out your comfort zone, and sure, it'll make you a little uncomfortable. But if you do, in fact, create the space for you to get insight from other people who can help you make a sound decision, then you'll be even more prepared for the opportunity, not waiting for permission, but be armed with the resources of information and insight that'll make the risk you're about to take even more rewarding. All right. So I'm going to stop here. We're going to come back for the next episode in this series where we'll cover momentum thief number 5, refusing to focus. We're going to talk about what happens and what it costs you when you refuse to focus. So I'm going to invite you to like and subscribe this podcast. And if you haven't done so already, purchase my book, The Momentum List, Rediscover How to Delight in Time rather than be mastered by it. And you can visit my website, takecareandlive.com, and sign up to be a part of my exclusive mailing list where I'll be having some opportunities for you to engage in some events and get access to free resources. I will leave all those details in the show notes. And in the meantime, I want you to do what I encourage folks to do each and every day, and that's to take care and live.